Hello, and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. You look cold. I know, the weather is ghastly. And your car has broken down, you say. I'm afraid the phone lines are out. It's the storm. I've never seen anything like it. But do come in. Warm yourself by the fire. You and your friends. You are all friends, I assume. You are welcome to stay the night. There's plenty of room, and my house is your house. I am sure you will love it here. You may never leave. Okay. As I record this, it's the middle of summer, and the sun is shining. But at Always Bored, Never Boring HQ, it's always Halloween. I love all things horror, and I couldn't wait until October to showcase the very silly, super spooky fright fest that is Betrayal at House on the Hill, which was sent to me for review by Avalon Hill and the always spooktacular Kent Caliber. Betrayal dates back to 2004 and has since gone through 3 iterations plus several reskins. What I have here is the most recent 3rd edition of the original game from 2022, which is for 3 to 6 players. And I will say this up front, I really like this game. It has so many elements that I look for in a tabletop experience: accessible rules, fun mechanisms, and a creepy theme. It's the sort of game you can explain in seconds. There are so few rules you need to know up front, and the concept is so universally understood. A group of cliched horror protagonists go to a haunted house to explore, and then something really bad happens that will probably turn them against each other. To get started, each player should select one of the 6 colour-coded miniatures, and then they take the matching character board. Boards are double-sided, giving you a choice of 2 characters for each colour. The character boards have slider bars for tracking physical attributes, speed and might, and mental attributes, knowledge and sanity. Use the cute little dagger sliders to set your starting attributes. Also, I have to point out the biographies on the cards. These are so funny, as they are completely random facts that still manage to shed some light on the characters' backstories. Anita, for example, has 17 animal friends. One of her hobbies is taxidermy. Brittany likes dancing. Her favourite music genre is dungeon synth. Jaden Jones loves mysteries. He's currently solved 0 cases. And Joseph Brosif Hooper likes poetry and football. His grade point average is 2.5. Other than the birthday, which determines which player will go first, none of these biographical details have any bearing on the game, but they do hint at the kind of silliness you are about to get involved with. Having selected the characters, you prepare the house for your arrival. You shuffle the decks of items, events and omens and place them within easy reach along with the dice. Then you lay out the 3 starting tiles. The first is the large ground floor hallway, which comprises 3 rooms and indicates where the characters will start their adventure. Place all the characters on the entrance hall. You should also place the upper landing and basement landing tiles on the table, making sure they have plenty of space around them. These are the starting spaces for other floors of the house that you may be able to gain access to. For example, the ground floor staircase connects directly to the upper landing, so those 2 rooms are treated as if they are adjacent. The rest of the room tiles should be shuffled well and left in a stack to one side. Finally, you need a reason why your characters have decided to explore this house. There are 5 scenario cards, and you can either pick one or randomly deal one. Perhaps you have all received a mysterious invitation. Maybe you are paranormal investigators, or you could be in search of a missing friend. These cards give a nice sense of purpose for what happens next, but it's not just scene setting. The scenario you pick will help to determine the haunting you will eventually have to survive. More on that later. For now, let's start exploring. A game of Betrayal is divided into 2 distinct parts, before the haunt and then the haunt itself. Before the haunt, everyone is on the same side and works together to explore the house and prepare for an unknown but expected disaster. Once the haunt begins, everyone's life is at risk, and at least one of the players may turn out to be a villain who intends to betray the others. Starting with the player whose character's birthday is closest to the actual date, each player will take a turn to explore the house. On a turn, they can move through a number of rooms up to their current speed value. To move between rooms, there must be a means to do so. A doorway, laundry chute, staircase, and so on. Furthermore, as soon as they access a previously unrevealed part of the house, their movement ends. In addition to movement, once per turn you may trade items and omens with other characters in your space, and you may also use any special abilities on cards in your possession. These actions will mainly come into effect once the haunt begins. For now, the focus is very much on moving around the house to uncover new rooms. Anytime you access an unexplored area, you stop moving and draw the top room tile from the stack. If the back of the tile matches the floor of the house you are on, you play it. Otherwise, you put it on the bottom of the stack and draw again. After adding a room to the house, place your character on the new tile and then resolve any text on that tile. Some rooms have special events that trigger the first time they are revealed, while others will trigger every time someone enters the room. For example, if you are lucky enough to discover the library, you gain 1 knowledge. That means you get to slide the knowledge tracker on your character board up 1 space. Many rooms also have a symbol on them. You only resolve these symbols when you place the room, but the symbols may also be important for rules that come into play during the haunting later. If you find a skull symbol, you get to draw and keep the top item from the item deck. This deck is full of useful stuff that may save your life, like a rabbit's foot that lets you reroll 1 dice once per turn, or a crossbow which will be terribly helpful for shooting one of your friends in the face later on. If you find a swirly symbol, you must draw the top event card. Often these cards will ask you to make a trait test, and the degree of your success or failure will determine what happens. For example, this is the bite. Something lunges out of the shadows and tries to bite you. Make a might roll. Whenever you are asked to make a trait test, you roll a number of dice equal to your current score in that trait. The dice are custom, 2 blank faces, and then 2 faces with 1 pip and 2 faces with 2 pips. Simply add up the number of pips and then refer to the chart on the event card to see what happens. Failure will often result in damage, and for each point of damage a character receives, they must slide one of their trait trackers down 1 space. If the damage was physical, they must distribute that damage between might and speed. If the damage was mental, they must distribute it between knowledge and sanity. If it was general damage, they can distribute it among all 4 traits as desired. If any of the sliders reaches a skull, that character is dead and removed from the game. However, during the exploration part of the game, no character can die. They must allocate all damage possible, but no slider can go below the lowest red value on any of the trackers. While exploring, you may also find a raven symbol. This is an omen. Omens are generally very powerful artifacts that will help you, but unfortunately they are cursed. Each time an omen is discovered, the player rolls a number of dice equal to the total number of omens discovered so far. On the result of 5 or more, the haunt begins. This means the earliest that the haunt can begin is after discovering 3 omens, but generally it's going to be more like 5 or 6 omens before the game turns on its head. And this first part of the game, exploring the house, is kind of aimless. Personally, I really enjoy it. I think it does an excellent job of recreating that early part of a horror film when the kids don't really know what is going on and they bumble around making bad choices, setting the scene for the ensuing carnage. For me, there is a simple pleasure in strolling from room to room, finding cool stuff, experiencing strange events, learning how rooms connect, and feeling that growing sense of unease as more and more omens appear. It has shades of Dungeon Quest about it. You simply move, flip a tile, and then resolve that tile, often making some kind of trait test to see how badly you are mistreated by the spooks inside the house. Only, in Dungeon Quest, you know your final goal. In Betrayal, your destination is shrouded in mystery. You really are just wandering around and trying to get the lay of the land. Sure, you are picking up useful items, but you don't have a huge amount of agency in what you do. You should always keep in mind that one of your friends may at some point betray you, or you may have to betray them, but you don't know what final threat you are going to face, so there's no real way you can plan for it. Also, there is no risk of death in this part of the game. You can get hurt. After all, what horror film is complete without someone breaking their leg early on to up the stakes and ensure they will be a burden on everyone else? But you can't die. You will survive long enough to witness the true horror. So I think for some gamers this is all going to feel a bit pointless, like you are treading water waiting for the action to start. But if you can get into the theme, if you can embrace the freewheeling, directionless aspect of creeping around an old empty house just to see what happens, you can have a lot of fun here. But the game really comes to life, or undeath, once the haunt begins. You will recall, omens force players to make a haunt roll. If that haunt roll is failed, the player who made the roll should flip over the scenario card that was selected at the start of the game and then refer to the entry on the chart for the omen they found that triggered their failed haunt roll. The chart will tell them which haunt is going to occur and who the traitor will be. For example, here, if the omen that triggered the haunt was the holy symbol, the haunt would be number 13 and the traitor would be the player who revealed the haunt. Sometimes there may be more than one traitor, sometimes there won't be a traitor at all. And at this point I must tread very carefully, more carefully than an inquisitive child snooping around the attic of that house down the street which is supposed to be home to a witch, because I want to avoid spoilers as much as possible. The idea is the traitor gets this book, the Traitor's Tome, while the rest of the players get this book, the Secrets of Survival. They turn to the haunt indicated by the scenario card and secretly read what they have to do to win. For example, the Traitor's Tome may tell the traitor player they are possessed by the ghost of a serial killer and win by killing all the other players, while the Secrets of Survival book may tell the survivors that if they can perform a ritual on 5 different locations around the house, they will banish the spirit of the killer and free their friend. Of course, neither side will know what the other side must do, and this adds a lot of fun and confusion. There is also an element of deduction as you try to determine what the other side is up to. This is also the point in the game when players can start fighting each other. This usually involves a dice-off in a contest of might when 2 characters are in the same location, although some items and omens may allow attacks at range or using different traits. To fight, both players roll dice equal to their trait value and the highest score wins. Items may add or deduct dice from the roll or allow for rerolls, and the player who is attacking is also allowed to add the benefits of one weapon they are carrying. The loser in the combat takes physical damage equal to the difference between their roll and the winner's roll, unless a special rule says otherwise. It's all pretty simple, but what makes it so fun is the secret winning conditions and the interactions around the table as once friends become bitter enemies, hacking away at each other with chainsaws and machetes inside a house of evil they once explored together as a team. And this is where the actual game begins. Everything up to now has just been setting the scene, moving the pieces into place for a climactic showdown between good and evil. Now the players have real choices. What weapons will they use? Will they continue to explore new rooms or stick to well-trodden paths? What items can the survivors share to ensure their survival? Who will sacrifice themselves for the good of the team? Who are you going to hunt down first? Now there is real tension, a fight for survival, defined goals and tactics for achieving those goals. And death. Except on the rare occasions when there is no traitor, it's impossible for everyone to make it out alive. This is the best part of the game. It is also the trickiest bit of the game to get right. Because traitors and survivors are dealing with hidden information and read the rules from different books, there is a very real chance that one person misunderstanding a rule or misreading a winning condition can completely derail the whole experience. In one game I played with my wife and daughter where I was the traitor, they unfortunately misread the rules for how they were supposed to stop me achieving my nefarious goals. As a result, it was impossible for them to win, and there was no way for me to know they had got anything wrong until the game was over. That was definitely a learning experience, and we do read the rules with much greater care now. Fortunately, it didn't ruin the overall experience too much, and we have played many times since, always having fun. But it's definitely something for new players to be aware of. Ultimately, this game is dumb fun, like many of the goofy horror films that have inspired it. It's a game that is much more about theme than thinking. It's simple, visceral, often silly, chaotic, random, unhinged, sometimes infuriating, and always different. The house is never the same twice, and with dozens of haunts to experience, it's going to be a long time before you have seen everything that goes bump in the night. For me, it's a winner, but it's not going to be for everyone. The chaos of it all can result in games that are brutally short or a bit too long, lacking in interesting developments or convoluted, balanced on a knife edge or ridiculously one-sided. But that chaos is part of the game's charm. It's a feature, not a bug. You aren't supposed to be able to prepare. You are supposed to feel off guard and wrong-footed. You are supposed to expect the unexpected. And you must prepare to be the traitor even if you don't want to be. But regardless of what happens, every game will tell a story. Stories of loss or last gasp victories, of vampires, werewolves, demonic spirits, ghosts, gremlins, and betrayal. Stories you will remember. Maybe even stories you can tell around a crackling campfire as night falls, and the long fingers of spectral shadows choke out the moon, plunging the world into a darkness where all manner of terrors lurk. Don't be scared though. There's a house up on the hill nearby, and there's a light at the window. Maybe you can shelter there until dawn. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.